We are back. All of us are back. Thank you for coming back, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It was, you know how many bookmarks I had? 165. So I have boiled it down. That is what is happening. It is tempting to call it a golden age. It is something. Something is going on. And it's been happening actually for a couple of years now, and we are tracking all of it. Artist Journal, September 25th, 2023, broadcasting from deep in inner space. Helping out at the Cartographer's Workshop, my name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. And it's going to have to be a quick show today. I have a hard stop in about an hour, and I'm going to try and make it shorter than that. So let's get to it. There is a ton to get through here, and many of you have seen this. I mean, again, with 165 bookmarks that I was going through, it can be kind of a tough decision. But there was just something about this piece, and of course, this is rustic digital art. I think it was a one of one. I think Scamra scooped this one up. Let me just check here quickly. And it is a one of one. I think Scamra got it for $75 to Scamra so I mean, we're talking like $50, just a really, again, it just kind of hit very quick. And then as, it hits the, visual field, whatever it is that's going on, hits the brain, hits the screen in our mind, the screen in my mind very quickly, start to process. And as I'm processing it, then I think it was this part here that really then all of a sudden, as we start to ratiocinate, it's back to the reality principle. Reason rationalizes reality for us. It's sort of like, understanding sometimes is, Terence McKenna quoting Alfred North Whitehead is kind of understanding is, I think and probably some of you will be familiar with this McKenna, a perception or pattern. I had it actually on the tip of my tongue here. Pattern as a perception as such, and that doesn't even make sense to me, but pattern recognition. And what is pattern recognition is you're starting to congeal through reason. You're starting to organize what this is. You look and, okay, maybe this is a sports thing. And then as you're starting to ratiocinate, as you're looking closer at the details, this is where rustic digital art shines, who has been playing very boldly and very courageously with irrationality for months. And it's great to see rustic digital art back. And it's kind of another lesson to me in the importance even of taking breaks. Because I think Rustic took a bit of a break, comes back fresh. We see this with Gogolitis a couple of times. Comes back fresh with a whole kind of next level, we might say, approach. Again, there is a value in taking breaks. So what I loved about this was the first thing I noticed is the tennis court in the tennis court. And I'm thinking of the McKenna quote in the back of my brain here. But yeah, the tennis court in the tennis court and the ball is somewhere else here. So upsetting our process of rationalization. Again, this is sometimes called, the reality principle by Freud. And I wish we had more time, and we have gone into this before. I want to go into it again, but I might have to delay that. And rustic digital art, what's so beautiful is, again, this irrationality, this defiance, because it's actually very hard to be irrational, as I've discussed here many times before. And again, sorry for all of the wardrobe malfunctions here as we try and move through this episode. I don't have time for a take two, but I do have time to look at this closer. Let's look at this. So just to have a clue as to what Rustic is up to, and you see all the beautiful little details here. And here's the beautiful tennis court. And of course, I've been mentioning here how sports is one of my favorite subjects and underplayed. And here you even see kind of beautifully the ball kind of almost like either bouncing or about to bounce. It's not perfectly circular. You see this beautiful mark making here, where it's like the lines don't need to be perfect. Again, a kind of irrationality of sorts, because a perfectly rationalized tennis court here would be perfectly geometric. Look at this. So, and even what are these tennis balls doing here? what are these tennis balls doing here? So, and then there is someone on a bench in their white pants there, looking on. And then here, I mean, so you just see, again, this bold irrationality here, and then large, tennis balls here. So anyway, and like, what is this, right? I like look at this part here, and I am trying to zoom through this, but I mean, what on earth? Like, it almost looks like a face here, and then all these people kind of walking around, and it's almost like a track here, rather than a tennis court all of a sudden. And look at this, this screen here that is all of a sudden it is a white background rather than a brown background, and then another tennis court here. So almost a kind of cubist feeling to it, right? If we're to look at it, like what's going on, we kind of have almost kind of a, impressionism. You have the perception, and then we're going to kind of maybe abstract it a bit, or even try and scientifically capture the experience, like in George Seurat, the divisionist, try and capture the experience of perception, and then you see in the cubist this kind of multi-dimensional, multi-perspective view in what we'd call analytical cubism, I believe. And what we have there, so it kind of feels a bit like that, is we're kind of getting multiple views and this almost this play with memory. Again, reason is cast aside here. And that is why it is very special, this work here. And so Scomber, I think, got a deal. And look at this, even at the top. This green grass at the top here. And I mean, is this a road? Like, what's going on here? Maybe it's just the entrance, but it's not. So just brilliant here. And here's Rustic commenting on the work. I've been rustically and digitally painting, and I follow Rustic Digital Art, by the way. That is a bug on Twitter. I've been rustically and digitally painting nonstop this week, and it's totally showing. So there's something to be said, again, for taking breaks and then just kind of putting the pedal to the metal, so to speak. Here's another interesting work. Hotelas, edition of 10, minted on object, a landscape made from memory. So again, kind of a clue here on Photoshop with my mouse of a location in my town, a group of hotels made during the government of Perón. So I'm pretty sure Rustic is in Argentina in the 1940s. Unidad Turística Chapel Malal. So I'm not sure what that means. And I'm pretty sure this is sold out. This is now 50 Tezos on secondary. Pamelo Corone. I love it. Sold out at 5 Tezos. Sold within an hour and a half, 2 hours max. There's Scomra again. Magician, Mikey Wilson, tempered, not a number. I mean, it's great. So that is very cool. And let me just see here. I'm painting like you were supposed to 70 years ago. Again, kind of referencing, there is something kind of modern feeling with a capital M, and there's the police station about, and these fields. There's something very beautiful and kind of capital M modern, but very different and, strikingly rustic digital art. Like, I can tell almost from the palette as much as anything else, which is always a good sign. Rooftop. And this definitely, and if we had more time, I would definitely show you how this looks like a Van Gogh landscape. Like, that's what I see here. This is like a classic Van Gogh landscape where you see basically what I'd be tempted to call the rolling fields. And here's a little soccer stadium. So again, I think this is probably done from a rooftop, or maybe the memory of a rooftop. And just beautifully painted, slightly different style, it seems like, but maybe not entirely. And just really nice little details here, like the brushwork you see combining here. It's really, there's a lot going on here that, again, like, it's bold. There's a lot of courage in these works, and there's a lot of creativity. And again, it's sort of like I like to say with design. Once it's done and it looks good, people go, oh, of course this is how it's supposed to look. But they forget sometimes, or are not aware of, the courage that it takes maybe to make a line like this. Or, to make even little, blending in over here and then deciding that that's okay. The courage of leaving certain marks and going, you know what? That is beauty. And that's where this starts to become innovative. It doesn't matter if it's digital art or impressionism. Like, that's what was Van Gogh doing? Did everybody love it right away? No. People thought he was crazy, but what he was doing, I would argue, again, with a little coffee in the system here, I would argue what he was doing was he was seeing a beauty that was a kind of beauty that was unrecognized and going, I dare to paint it this way because I think it's beautiful, taking all the controversy that comes along with that oftentimes, especially back then, but now they'll just probably ignore you, right? That's probably the controversy you'll have now. But all to say, there's courage in aesthetic decisions that are new, different, and bold. And so that's why we can look at this, and we can look at this digital art, and we can take it just as seriously as uh, as anything else, right? As long as we're seeing this kind of activity. So again, beautiful work from rustic digital art. It's fantastic to see someone just kind of come back with a bang, right? To see them come back and then come back with a bang. Here's Scommer again. I just love it. I love this community. Thanks so much for showing Tree 1. So, of course, that's a Stable Diffusion AI with some treatment and everything. And thanks for collecting it. And Santiago, the portrait of Santiago. I agree, Curio Fringe's feed is a treasure. Indeed. I love their work too. I picked up a great piece, Huenga, from 2021 this week. I saw that. And it's a beautiful work. I saw that. Congratulations on that. He paid, I think Scommer paid 150 Tezos, edition of 8. So a lot, Scommer is buying a lot on this scene here and a lot of conviction. Let's put it that way. Quasi Objeto, hey Adrian. So referring to the new ChatGPT integration with DALL-E 3. ChatGPT and DALL-E are both from OpenAI. What they mean with natural language is that you can iterate it with it as if you were having a conversation. So maybe this is the key word here, iterate. You can develop, evolve the conversation. It's rather different from crafting a mid-journey stable diffusion prompt nowadays, several terms separated by commas, including special terms like weights, LoRa's, embeddings, and extensions. Now I'm starting to understand. So I wonder, like one of the things I'm trying to do more of is get more textured brush strokes. So it does make you wonder, oh, should I just be using ChatGPT and then I'll be able to get more textures maybe easier? Who knows? Now for minting the podcast. That's a great idea. It got me I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. And again, what I love about it with Zora is it's a free mint. And that kind of makes, yes, there's the fee, so it's not exactly free, but I love how it's just kind of, I love just the fact that it can be called a free mint. So let's continue here. It got me thinking if it would make sense to mint them on Tezos. Since you feature so many Tezos artists, I know you're not attached to a particular chain, but that might be a great incentive to the ecosystem. So it's an interesting thought. I mean, I'm not sure. Put it this way, like Zora seems to have a really dedicated, what they were explaining to me, and again, I met with them last week for a quick meeting because they wanted to explain to me what they were up to. One of the things they're trying to do is build out their Web3 media, so to speak, NFTs. And again, I'm kind of surprised that there is a market for it, but I'm thrilled if people are excited about that. And it sounds like Quasi Objeto would be willing to mint and everything. So I think it's super fun. But they seem kind of dedicated. Like that's something they really want to develop. They also reached out to me and were kind of like encouraging me to do this. So to me, that's a good sign, right? Like they were saying, oh yeah, it'll probably be, I don't want to put words in, but probably somewhere on the homepage, there's a section and all that. I love that. And that's exciting to me. Object, I've been doing this show for a year. Tezos and Object have never reached out to me. And they've never said, hey, we like what you're doing. We're going to put you on the Object homepage. If you want somewhere at the bottom, fine. So it's sort of also, there's kind of the enthusiasm factor. And they seem excited. And again, I like this fee sharing rather than saying, oh, it's going to be a Tezos each. I like this idea of it's kind of a free mint. And then you see there's thousands that some of those podcasts have had. So it could be actually, great for me from a financial perspective. Who knows? But all to say, they reached out and it looks like a good fit. So if they're enthusiastic, I'm kind of enthusiastic. So let's see. I may start minting this week, maybe even today, but we are under the gun here. Very much so. I know you're not attached to a particular... Great show as usual. Thank you, Quasi Objetto. So I really appreciate the feedback, which is what I was searching for. Ed Marola, can't wait to collect the episodes. Indeed. And Ed, if you're watching this, I was working on the Pixel Network, or Pixel Art Network, whatever we call it. I think we'll call it we have pixelnetwork.art, and it'll probably be pixelnetwork.substack. I've been working on it, just putting down the infrastructure, so I'm hoping within a week I can get Ed set up on this too. And then maybe we put a link underneath, because Ed, of course, makes videos too. So yeah, all to say, can't wait to collect the episodes. Awesome. And Sid, awesome as always. Thank you, Sid. And PP Universal, thanks, Poco. You're welcome. Always interesting work over there. So we got some commentary, and this was on the Keith Haring show. Brian Kuhn, who is a retired designer, artist, collector of stuff, looking for Warhols and Lichtensteins, enjoyed listening. The discussion would have benefited from an original Commodorian participating, and I assume that means Commodore 64 programmer or something, tech person. Some tech info brought up is wrong, but there is a lot more being missed. There are people alive who were directly involved. I live with one, so who were directly involved with this Keith Haring Warhol business and Amiga and Commodore. 90% of the Leary story is made up. Might have to follow up with Brian Kuhn. I see we're following each other here, so I'll have to message perhaps. Thanks, Brian. Would love to know what we got wrong and also what aspects of Leary's story you believe are incorrect from Xerox. There are subtle differences between Dither and D-Paint, what Keith had, if you believe the timeline, and D-Paint 3, 1988, and D-Paint 4. So, interesting. So, all to say, maybe we get Brian Kuhn on the Spaces at some point. This week, we're going to have Artemort, and that I need to post today, but running under the gun here. Your NFTs are worth... So, again, I saw this last week, and I kind of was going to let it pass. But I got it. But the funny thing is I was at a dinner on the weekend, and someone actually, a friend of mine was like, I heard NFTs are dead. And I thought the person was joking, but they were actually serious. So, as many people have pointed out, so this Rolling Stone article came out, your NFTs are actually finally totally worthless. Bit of a misleading headline. New report from industry researchers finds that 95% of the once hyped crypto assets have hit rock bottom valuation. So, this is true of any art, as has been pointed out many times, and as I said at the dinner there, 95% of art is basically worthless. And so, unfortunately here, I am locked out, but it basically, unfortunately, I had the article, I had to restart my computer, and now I'm locked out. I guess you get one, but I don't really want to spend too much time on it. As this person, I thought, here we go. As Jay Bond and several others have pointed out, and it's kind of the super obvious argument here, 95% of NFTs are now actually finally totally worthless. Like, we shouldn't be surprised by that. And along with 99% of Pokemon cards, NBA cards, comic books, and art, 99% of art. Most collectibles don't have resale value, but the 1% will always have value. And this is the challenge, really, for collectors out there, is... that is the challenge for collectors out here, is you really, if you're buying and you more than just for yourself, but you're hoping that it's worth something, that is the challenge you have, is to find what's really going to stand the test of time that people are going to want to buy in the future. And usually that mixes up with what you like, hopefully, and hopefully that those combine. So I thought this was interesting. Kablin, also known as Ombelin, who was on the show last week, bringing up this issue, she is the curator, of course, on object.com, and she's having sort of conflict on whether she can collect or not. I stopped to avoid, looking at this, it made me nostalgic about collecting. I stopped to avoid ethical problems due to my role as a curator, but I wonder if I start collecting again without reselling and collecting pieces which have already been highlighted on the front page, would it be fine? And yeah, I think transparency is really the main thing, which is what I try and do here, basically as much as possible. Sometimes I don't see what's sent to me, uh, but generally I do. I Yeah, and I'll talk about me in a second as far as how I deal with this. I think this is, as far as what Ombelin is saying here, I think one of the keys is not to resell. Like, if you say put a work on the homepage, you buy it before and then you sell it a week later, or even if I do it on this show, if I show a work and then like that day or a week later or even a month later, I start putting it up for sale. Maybe a month later it's okay, but I generally don't sell. I think I've sold 2 NFTs that belong to other people. I sell my work, but I don't sell. I think I've sold 2, if I remember right. And they're like for almost nothing, and they're months ago. And it was way before I started this show, so I don't think I've actually ever sold while doing this show. So I think this is maybe the key thing, that you're not obviously profiting from, so what could be perceived as a conflict of interest. But I don't see any problem. Like, it's kind of sad, let's put it this way, that Kablin sees all this art and isn't able to collect any of it. I think if you put it in a vault and you basically, maybe you say, I'm not going to sell this stuff for 1 to 5 years, as I don't see, does it matter that much if it's on the homepage of object.com? It's not like everything that comes on the homepage of object.com is necessarily worth something. Maybe for the following week, maybe even 2 weeks, but a year later, I'm not sure it really matters that much. And so here's the poll. I'm making the poll again. If I start collecting again without reselling and collecting only pieces which have been already highlighted on the front page, would it be fine? Or would there still be an ethical problem? What do you think? So 85, I think it's totally fine. And like the same things could be argued against me here. But I was thinking to myself, like, the first video I ever made of this series was called Recent Acquisitions on Tezos. So, I mean, that's what this came out of, was collecting. So, yeah, I'd say, Kablin has to do what works for her. She works for an organization, and she does have to avoid the conflict of interest narrative, even the perception, right, of conflict of interest, which is, I think she's being very conservative about it. But I don't, just to chime in here, I don't see it at all as unethical. Don't worry about me. I'm still an art addict, and I can spend my money very quickly when it comes to art. I have no problems knowing how to spend. I can still buy art magazines, artist catalogs, stickers, prints, as I don't consider it unethical. I only had a doubt about NFTs and realized it's a gray area. And you could also wonder, like, is Kablin never allowed to collect on other chains? So it seems kind of sad that Kablin can't collect. Now, speaking of which, though, some BB sent me this just out of, and I don't, so referring to how I deal with this, people send me works all the time. And the way I deal with it is I can't talk, like, I want to give transparency when I'm showing a work that I want to show. That's basically how I approach it. If I start showing every work that's sent to me, then people have an incentive to send the work to me, and then it gets shown, right? So I usually just focus on the works that I think will make a great show. And sometimes it's kind of thematic, my shows, a little bit. So my philosophy on this is put the show together, and then if it's something that's been sent to me, I reveal it. And then there's the transparency without giving a green light to anybody that sends something, and all of a sudden, then all of a sudden you're on YouTube or whatever. However, if there's something special, I may want to give a thanks. BB just sent this to me. This is Ratcloak's first work. And so I am just saying thank you publicly. I mean, a very nice gift here from one of the great artists of this space. So anyways, big shout out to Ratcloak over in Ukraine. Stay safe. And so a beautiful gift here from BB. Thank you very much. And, if people make, and yeah, you can see it's the first work there. And if people make a work about me, sometimes I'll start the show, like when Ed Marola made a work, that beautiful work, Pocobelli stream. So I just got to focus on the content and then just be transparent. That's basically my approach. So I hope people can live with that. Because I think Kiblin's right. Like there are, perceptions of conflict of interest that you really kind of have to direct in a transparent, open way if you're going to act in the space. Unknown collector, through NFTs, collecting art becomes an addiction, the most positive addiction for everyone involved I can think of, though. Indeed. Yeah, it is an addiction. And Drew, call me Drew21, who picked up the RJ, that gorgeous RJ we started with. And that RJ, by the way, went for 650. I'm going to have to run through the rest of this episode. Went for 650 Tezos. Drew picked it up. Drew is Fat is the name of the handle here. And he had this great quote from Van Gogh in 1888, quote, "The uglier, older, meaner, iller, poorer I get, the more I wish to take my revenge by doing brilliant color, well-arranged, resplendent." And so, yeah, the defiance. I thought this was just a great quote here from Drew. And Gordon Zuckwold, remember, was the pixel artist that Retro Manny was shouting out in the last comments. There are so many amazing artists on this planet, it's insane. It shows that we as a human race are searching to express ourselves. I strongly believe that each and every one of us has the creative blood pumping through our veins, looking for a way to let it out. And I completely agree with this. This whole idea that only some of us are artists, I think this is something that is part of the human experience, this desire to express ourselves poetically, what you might call the poetic faculty. I believe we all have a poetic faculty, whether your strength is in writing or just in thinking, right? Or art or whatever it is, maybe making, textiles, blankets, whatever it is. Yeah, and I totally agree. It's insane how much great art there is. As again, the editing process is wild on this show sometimes. August Ground, I see the world now through the eyes of so many artists I know from this space. Isn't that beautiful? And I can kind of relate. It's actually amazing how deeply some of your visions have become ingrained in my perspective. This is the power of art. It is definitely one of the great powers of art, is being able to see the world differently, with new eyes, from a different perspective, taking us out of our, what some people might call default consciousness. So sometimes I see like the pixel version of things, if I'm looking at a lot of pixel artwork. To your point, great comment, August Ground and Popple. As a tradition, I'll show sketch to finish after each Edenfall piece is collected. Here's the making of Edenfall 2, so let's take a quick look. So I believe this just got collected. Was it only now that someone collected this? Look at that, the creativity here. So it's interesting to see the sketch, the sketches before and then rendered, dithered into pixel art. I think that's part of the wonderful part of this is, and you see it here, like in the computer keyboard where it's not perfect. Like it's this combination, this natural contrast between sketching, which is kind of loose, and then putting this geometric, super, rectilinear form over top of this looseness kind of creates a natural contrast here, and is part of, to me, the joy, so to speak, of and what works, let's say, in Popple's work. And you got to love this kind of spotlight here, and even the kind of red-black background, if that's not just my screen, and even up here, just beautiful work. So congrats to Popple on a sale. No wonder morning practice make a quick 1-hour animation. And so just some fun pixel art. We're going to see I think a Genesis work on Foundation, if I'm not mistaken, or a new work on Foundation. From No Wonder, Jake Fried, work in progress. So Jake is the illustrator. We've seen a lot of animations, and now we're seeing what looks like a Post-it. This is such an awesome use of the Post-it, if that's what this is. The yellow Post-it notes. So just super cool. So yeah, fascinating to see physical renditions. Arnaud Pfeffer, mechanical drawing is often a question of lines management, depending on the effect you want to have. I thought this one looked particularly precise, but it also had kind of a watercolor feel to it a little bit. And then also what I found interesting is it's like brush strokes. It's like a brush, right? But then rendered so again, traveling through the mediums here. It's really reminiscent again of late Warhol. making this charcoal on the Goethe or graphite that has been photographed, zoomed in, and then screen printed. Here, it's so traveling through the mediums, representing, charcoal or pencil, graphite with screen print. Here we're representing brush strokes with a mechanical, as a mechanical drawing. So continuing on, this was interesting. I didn't realize that Die with the Most Likes put out a series here, and this might be slightly out of order here. Let me just check. Yeah, and here, we'll do this. Die with the Most Likes put out a series here called Beef Broth Co. And of course, it is combining, and they look like physical works, by the way. It is combining what looks like physical art and ground beef in the content, the flies, with Rothko. So a hilarious art satire here from Die with the Most Likes, also known as Toad Swibak, if I'm pronouncing that right. And Pindar here swiped another masterpiece at the floor. If you don't miss the mint, lots of people don't know what they have, and secondary is still low. So Beef Broth Co. by Die with the Most Likes, and you can see the floor here is at 0.36 ETH. And so I'm not quite sure how they were made. Maybe I've been on Die with the Most Likes podcast like months and months ago. I would be curious to know if these are made. Maybe we can get them on the Spaces, because I'd be curious to just know more about how these were made. They look like physical works, and the way you can tell is, you probably see it too. You see it's almost like the light of the flash on the side, but you never know. It almost looks like AI too. So I'm not exactly sure. Maybe this is taking physical brush strokes and then putting it into generative artwork. Not sure. Maybe he just made, how many of these are there? Let's see. Not sure. 666. It's hard to imagine him making 666, but it's possible. That would be incredible. So going to have to find out more there. And here is just an example. It almost looks like AI. So I'm not sure what's going on here. It looks like AI, but I don't know. I really don't know. And Tyler Hobbs with an interesting mint here. Just on QQL, so I assume a new series here, just minted on Tuesday, is one of the most special mints to date. And yeah, it looked pretty nice. So some nice generative art. This is digital art, so new work from Tyler Hobbs over here. So interesting and looking great. I think Tyler Hobbs has a huge studio in Texas and makes a lot of beautiful physical work based on the digital work. Jumping into the show here as far as the work. So this is, I believe, Nuv 1914, Niebla. And this is on Zora. Let me just make this large. And a beautiful, one of the subjects that Nuv 1914 likes to do is to do animals. And with this gradient technique, quite different from Dan Control, in a sense it's made of these little pieces of gradient. So it definitely has its own field, and then and has a really kind of bold, brush strokes here. Again, remember what I was saying at the beginning of this episode. The courage. This is one of the reasons I'm really enjoying this artist right now. There's a lot of courage in this work, making lines like this. It's not easy kind of pushing the boundaries, the frontiers of aesthetics. But that's ultimately what kind of really creates the value, makes it avant-garde. And then when you really appreciate it, then you go, oh, this stuff's valuable. This is pioneering, right? And it's tempting to see that in Nuv 1914's work. So this is on Zora, mint for 0.01 ETH. One has been minted. Continuing on, Blah 281, Primitive Hostility. Machine-on-machine violence, and an interesting, what I want to call variation here, two figures here, looking like two robots here in dialogue to a certain degree, kind of reminded me a little bit in a weird sort of way of Nuv 1914's work. So I'm showing it beside it, nice graph paper kind of style at the bottom, and interestingly, it matches up here, but it doesn't match up here. So all sorts of really interesting work. Just a cool piece. Edition of 16. There are 10 left at 5 Tezos from Blah 281. Ed Marola. NFTs are dead. NFT are dead. So what I really loved about this piece was first the composition, but even more so than the composition, maybe you see it too, it's the horizontal lines. Ed is playing with these horizontal lines, which is a kind of, a different take on the whole kind of retro monitor, retro pixel art kind of look. And there's the figure there with a kind of classic Ed Marola vase. Interesting way of portraying NFTs are dead as a subject matter in this beautiful, flora here. You'd call it flora. And little vase sort of hidden in there. And again, this awesome, awesome horizontal line texture. Another beautiful work from Ed. I think this is a 1 of 1, or is this is an edition. And one has been minted so far at 0.01 ETH. Maybe 2 have been minted, actually. And just a really cool, kind of ancient feeling piece. Again, if you check out the Twitter spaces with Ed Marola, you'll see there's kind of an archaeological, anthropological side to Ed's work. And I think he studied anthropology, actually, if I remember correctly. So just really cool stuff. Again, has the YouTube. And hopefully we figure out how to get that on the Substack, make Ed an account. Here, this was hilarious. So the Tez vending machine. There is the Tez vending machine. And here is a bunch of people holding hands and going to the Tez vending machine. This beautiful, beautiful work. And even how in the export, you see how there's a blue that surrounds all these yellow lines here. Kind of beautifully noisy in here. There's something really original and wonderful and it just looks like art, doesn't it? Gonna have to speed up the pace here, but just wonderful. And this looks like almost like a halo effect from the export of this work, but not sure. Not sure at all. It's probably a stroke, actually. But anyways, brilliant, brilliant. And there's the Tez vending machine. I just love this. Is this sold out? It is. Only an edition of 10. 8 were sent to the Tez vending machine, so maybe you can get it in the Tez vending machine. Zuozo, Vitamin X. So I've been just delighting in these, what I'm calling alternative digital art or indie digital art. So just really wild, totally original. Again, pushing the frontiers of aesthetics. That's how I read this. And then I go, oh, this is unlike any other work I've frankly ever seen. So in my mind, but it's poetic. And then at first when you see this stuff, you're maybe not sure what to make of it. But as time goes on, then you become, you start to get it. And the more you see, the more you start to understand the logic of that person. And maybe you start to become more interested. And there is the more familiar, repetition does help. Like we tend to, sometimes there's, music that you hear on the radio that you don't really like, but you hear it 10,000 times and then you start to like it. That can happen. So repetition is an interesting way that our aesthetic, this is my point here, because this is not the kind of thing you're going to find on the radio, but repetition helps us, it helps develop that aesthetic appreciation. So maybe the first one, if it's all by itself, not sure what to think, but maybe by the 4th or the 5th, you start to get it, appreciate it. So yeah, DT Badeau, Malfishin, value, deals, sales. So put out a whole bunch of work. We're going to focus on a couple here. This looks like one of those little, you wouldn't call them larvae, but these kind of miniature creatures you'd see at the bottom of those, not caves, but at the bottom of the ocean. Can't remember what you call, in the trenches, in the ocean trenches. That looks like one of those guys. And little wings here. And $19, just a wild piece by Hasdrubal Waffle. Love the background here. And that's an edition of 3. Lagojo putting in an offer here. Let's just see what they sold for. Accepted offer of 10 from Virtual Realt, 3 transferred to Islay. So I love it. And this was sent to me this morning, and I'm thrilled. Outlaw. It goes beautifully with the Champ, which Islay sent to me. Now, I'm not sure. Let me just see who... DT Badeau sent it here. So again, just keeping the transparency here to Little Cakes and to Islay. A fantastic work, Outlaw. And it goes beautifully. It's like in the same style as the boxing one we saw. Here we see more of a crossbow, kind of a biker-like figure here. And just an awesome, awesome work from DT Badeau, aka Hasdrubal Waffle. Here's another one, Joyriders. I'm not showing all the works that were put out because there are a ton to get through here. And we actually, but you in the Jesus sandals. But I do want to show these. And again, it kind of really goes with this like indie, what I'm tempted, for lack of a better term, to call alternative digital art. I never really loved the term alternative back in the 90s. It felt like a corporate word, but I'm using it for the sake of illustration here. Because a lot of people that were, in the 90s, what kind of happened with music very quickly, love this text in the background too. And just this again, pushing the frontiers of aesthetics. And it takes courage to do that. In the 90s, it was cool to listen to a lot of, New Order, the Smiths, and all that, at least in my circles. Actually, not in my circles, but at least among my older brother and his friends. And so when alternative came, it seemed like the corporate world was trying to survive because all of a sudden everybody wanted to listen to like the cool music, which was not on the radio. So then Nirvana was the perfect kind of crossover. Anyways, we're going to get off topic here. Honey Bucket, but to me it actually is kind of really fitting to mention Nirvana within this context. This is glorious. And Little Cakes, if I had more time, I would have brought up Little Cakes' tweet where Little Cakes was commenting on this work and how they're not perfectly straight, these lines. Great observation, Little Cakes. And just another, super interesting, bold work here. And just wonderful textures, not even sure what's going on. Cool structures here. Beautiful kind of pixelation here, processed. The politics of urine disposal. Hilarious. Rinny Fish with a new work, and I think this is with Skomra. I believe, a collaboration here. I believe, but I'm not positive on that. But I thought I saw a tweet somewhere that they are collaborating, and it kind of looks like Skomra's kind of pixelation on top, but not positive. But anyway, new work on Rinny Fish's page. Stulka. A little late, but GM, got to put a spell for myself today. So just another edgy work here from Stulka. Look at this beautiful, again, this is the kind of thing that when I started in this scene, I might not have appreciated. This kind of fuzzed out, flowers in the edge in this frame here. But as time goes on, it almost makes it like it's a feature, not a bug, And so, again, it's interesting to see how our aesthetics evolve and devolve. Cider, look at this. So playing with a video game meme, seemingly. Kind of looks like a Street Fighter type of game, but given the cider treatment here. So very interesting to see kind of the video game treatment here. Very beautiful, as cider is wont to do. Tension, good title there too. And here is Rosetto with an edition with Super Chief Gallery. And so let me see. Sometimes there's a maximize here, but sometimes there's not, for whatever reason, on the editions on Foundation. But all to say, here's the work by Rosetto. It is on Foundation, and it's called Doom. I wish I could make it bigger for you. But we have to run. Free art, Kel1 Art. So I discovered this artist from Hasdrubal Waffle's feed, actually, maybe 6 months ago. And there's all sorts of low editions and free art, and so I put out this new work, has been putting out some tarot works, I think. And I just thought this was kind of funny and cool. I picked one up. Free art here on the right. Nobody wants it. Literally anything else. So just kind of a hilarious commentary here. Interesting to see the red carpet rolled up here. And then it's just a funny, interesting artist. Low editions, usually really cheap. Just really cool. Here's another one. Decision making. Sometimes hard decisions are easy. So almost kind of cryptic here. Option 1, option 2, you see the Mona Lisa, and then Mona Lisa with a mustache, maybe the Duchamp reference, or at least a Renaissance painting. But seems to reference somewhat the Mona Lisa. And here, an interesting use, I would say, of the copy. Like, you see how the frame here, it's exactly the same. Like, they've, Kel1 has copied this, and then made another copy, and then just added the mustache. So again, and then here's the painter. Option 1, option 2, and there's something inherently digital about what took place there in that copying. So kind of a poetic, interesting work here. Edition of 5, 2 Tezos. Weissman Goldminovich with an image that's close to my heart here, the Perfect Prescription Digital Painting JPEG. This is very close, and shout out to Mom. This is very close to our Apple IIe. I think our screen was a little different and bigger, and it was just green. And we had 2 disk drives, I believe. But this looks like an early Apple computer here. Beautifully painted, cool subject matter, and interesting kind of putting the prescription drugs that are kind of being taken out, if they're, or vitamins, and then using this old computer as a frame of sorts. Very nicely painted. I think I picked one of these up. I did. Edition of 11 for 3 Tezos. Scamra is doing awesome. Doing awesome collecting and making really interesting kind of textured art, AI artwork. I put this beside it because the laptop kind of fit the theme a little bit. I don't, it's sort of like Gozo. You're not sure to put it in AI section, or is this feels more like digital painting, but it's all starting to blend together, isn't it? You see it with RJ too, where AI is blending into it. Anyways, look at this massive, this is definitely, I think, an AI computer keyboard here. Hilarious. Someone on a laptop. Brilliant. GM from Scamra. So making really cool work. And look at this. Look at this by Santiago. Look at this. Awesome. Let me see if I can make this big. I'm going to have to run through this show, unfortunately, but I still have a few minutes here. I still have time. Let's just see what Santiago, this is what I came to say. Very poetic. Let me see if we can make this bigger. This is brilliant. This is totally brilliant. And I'm not sure if it's AI. I don't know what it is, but it is beautiful, what's taking place here. So again, I don't know, maybe it's taking some of his older work and mixing it with, because there is a sense of, what is the name of the modernist guy, I think out of Austria around the 1890s, who did The Kiss? Remember that artist? Kind of maybe early 1900s, that very famous artist who I'm going to have to remember. There is a feeling of that being mixed in here too. So if I had to guess, and I'm probably going to be wrong on this, but if I was at St. Peter's Gate and I had to guess, I would say this is a Santiago mixed with that artist who did The Kiss, whose name escapes me. Look at this too. I mean, Santiago, open edition, finished. These diagonals are getting interesting. I would argue not easy to pull off, frankly. And again, I mean, pushing the frontiers of aesthetics here. This is getting pretty darn original, if you ask me, for digital art. And what else is getting interesting here too is the way that it's being made is getting more and more unclear. Is this AI? Is this what is this? It kind of looks. Is this one of the programs that Santiago uses? Is it both? I'm guessing both. But to me, it looks like AI is, let's look, digital painting made with tools I made online using P5.js and with help from friends. And I have mentioned this before, but one has to wonder if that is going to be one of the futures of digital art, is people making their own tools. You really want to start incorporating tech into digital art. Well, who can make this? I mean, if Santiago shares it, then other people can make it. But theoretically, you could also not share it. And I think it's super cool if people do share it. And as you're going to see, I'm pretty sure Santiago does. But all of a sudden, maybe the tools themselves, are, proprietary, so to speak, or are part, let's put it this way, are part of the artist's, aesthetic evolution, shall we say, or development, or canon, or, catalogue raisonné at the end of the day, like a part of their oeuvre, is what I'm trying to say. Super interesting. And look at how brilliant this is. I wish you all a happy day. Here's a portrait of the isolationist I did yesterday. So Santiago is on a complete roll here, and I think this is brilliant. I think it's funny, and I think it's nice. I just think it's really cool. Very, very cool. And here's another one. In these weird pixels, Pepe art once again. I guess this is a Pepe figure, not sure. But look at this. I mean, just really interesting artwork here. Continuing on. So this is funny too. Playing around with Santiago's new tool. So this tool, and look at the bottom here. I mean, to me, that's like one of my favorite parts right around here. Like, look at this. And then you have all this great kind of texture here, and even on the right over here. So maybe it's the same tool. This is Yuri J. I have made a few supplementary adjustments which were done manually. And look at this. I'm not even sure if I've showed this one. Like, this is stunning. Part of the process of my new works, I made drawings using this tool that generates brushes and has very limited features. Here it is. I mean, look at this. So just getting very, 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 very interesting over here. Yuri J. So continuing with what I want to call like the cycling of sorts, or remixing one structure with different treatments. Here's transition number 5, TR number 5, addition of 1 for 50 Tezos. Make that big there. And then here's transition number 6 for 2 Tezos, addition of 20. And then here's transition number 7. So you see it's all the same structure here. And so just very interesting, and we saw the commentary from Yuri J last time. There's nothing you can do to stop me, basically, is what he's saying. And this also, so here is Mikkel Noelsen remixed with Evelyn O, I believe. They were collaborating. I find this collab with Mikkel Noelsen very, very interesting. My attempts, intentions, textures, colors, voice, distorted to higher weight on shapes and gestures still existing inside of them. Almost turbulent water held in cupped hands, very expressive and sensitive at the same time. Mikkel is a genius. So it goes beautifully with those other works here, and very nice painterly works. I think Mikkel's work is on Solana, a lot of it. So anyways, very cool, and recognizably Mikkel's here. This is very cool. Let me see if I can reload this. So Quampa with some new work here. You see what happened this weekend. And again, there's a lot to get through here in the last few minutes, last 7 minutes or so. So Quampa with a beautiful work here. I don't think I've ever seen their work animated. So isn't that interesting? So very cool. And again, working in what looks like a modern version of Microsoft Paint. Bold. Again, as I keep saying here this episode, pushing the frontiers of aesthetics, of aesthetic appreciation. Rainbow Mess by Katarina Create. I picked this up. Collaboration with her daughter from the past, so probably with old kids' drawings put on top. Yeah, I just find these super moving and beautiful and super original. So I was thrilled to pick up this One of One by Katarina Create. Rainbow Mess, great title, for 20 Tezos. And already there's an offer in on it. Very cool. And this, I saw it from Tornado Rodriguez. Oh, wait, Katarina, I was just going through my collection and see you airdrop me a true gem. So another work here. Thanks a lot. Sorry for the delay on seeing it. Wow, feel so happy. So just very cool work here from Katarina Create. Love the sky and everything that's going on here. There's a joy in this work, isn't there? It's moving. Gora. Enigma drops on Foundation. So here are some highlights from this drop on Foundation from Gora. And just really cool. I think it's an edition of 8. Look at this. So just very cool kind of abstract works from Gora. Posted on Twitter here. And so I think that's on Foundation. Sebastistaro, Memory number 2. And another just cool work here from Sebastistaro. And just super original, and at the back of someone's head, someone thinking. With different color and everything, beautiful texture. Memory number 2. So a picture of memory. I mean, again, this kind of starts to go also into the qualitative science. Are we learning something with this kind of portrayal here? You could start to argue, memories from another life, as well as what we were seeing with Rustic at the start of the show. Drawing from memory. Interesting. Kappa Sage, Tezo Life number 40. 40 Legends edition. And I think this was this was sent to Tempered. And here you see the myth. You see, I think that's Baziah. And you see Die with the Most Likes. You see Rada. You see Rat Cloak. Kappa. Not exactly, I think I know who that is. But anyway, I'm almost remembering everybody here. So, Carhartt. Really, I always love this series. Edition of 1 sent to Tempered. Morlakos, Jerk's Jungle. So just a cool, rare work here from Morlakos. Interestingly, kind of lo-fi drawing here with Morlakos' trademark style. So from Morlakos Directory 2023. This has been burnt, but I think there's an edition out there. Pablo Corone. I picked this up. La Cancha. I thought this was brilliant. Pablo Corone has been putting out a ton of work, and this one is stunning, I thought. This is beautiful. You see these figures on horses, and then this great kind of shape of whatever this is, the structure. Maybe it's a circus tent. I don't know. The great grass, the textured background. And here we have some great music. Also Pablo Corone. Just so fun. There's something kind of innocent about this that I absolutely love. It's sort of like, again, I think, when's the last time I went to a contemporary art gallery and had this kind of joy that comes from a work like this? It's an open question. Nelson Mann, 0109, drums, bass, and synths by Pam. Recorded in 2022, but I believe the image is new, just minted. Anyway, so very cool work here. Great music. Just great combination, too. Chaz, with a new work, video streaming. This was great. Cool colors here, too. Interesting, bold colors, decisions. And then here you see like what looks like a video YouTube or something. Very cool pixel art here. Dynamic world of video streaming. Now 6 Tezos on secondary. And here, Sangriel, pixel artist. And here you see old... portable gaming consoles here. The Game Boy, Nintendo 3DS. I guess the Nintendo Switch is portable. PSP, Microvision, which I've never heard of, so just very cool. 9 of Cups. This is gorgeous from Manadal. I think taking offers of 6 Tezos, but check the Twitter feed. And this is a course in this majestic cat tarot. So really sticking with it and improving even. I don't know if I'd say improving, but it's keeping consistent. Let's put it that way, over time here from Manadal. And here's another one that I think we missed, the 8 of Cups. Look at this. So just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous work here with this beautiful kind of night sky, maybe dusk. Beautiful. And even look at the big chunky pixel water here and the front area. It's beautiful. And here, I think we're Notorious Man ETH. So here is a work, pixel artwork, a woman walking down the street, seemingly, and just a nice downtown scene here. And here, it looks like, you can't tell, it's blood. So kind of a darkness here. Not sure what's going on here. But the arm, not sure what's going on there. It lose somebody. So it's almost like maybe the hand that they held hands with is bleeding. So maybe a symbolic work of sorts. From notoriousman.eth, 0.035 for this 1 of 1. More awesome music. Green Ginger, Urban Pursuit. You're going to hear the video game influence here. Just very cool. 9 Tezos. Just like bumper cars, it goes for a minute. It goes for a minute. So brilliant. That is 9 Tezos on primary. Very cool work here. Joe Mariani, the only thing that's harder than sleeping alone is sleeping with your ghost. Well said. The only thing that's scarier, there's nothing scarier than yourself. Let's put it that way. Is I think Gio Mariani's point, your ghost, another word for the soul. And so deep, dark work. And here's some other works. And we're going to have to speed through this episode here. I have like 2 minutes here. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go really fast here. So here's mech.txt putting through a new series here. Beautiful here on Foundation. And there's also an open edition somewhere. Here's Anis Abdin with a new work also on Foundation. So beautiful here. Reserve of 0.7 ETH. Here is Spiegel's Maskinen, 2045. Brilliant. It's a server within a rare earths mine, interestingly. Server rack, rare earth metal mine, 2045. Brilliant. And then turning red, cool commentary. Cap'n with some cool digital hieroglyphs. This is another way of doing the show, is just going really fast through it. Malfunction from Kareem Safa, which could hang right beside it there. Very cool. Emmy Pixel, last first generation Mini Dreams key will be sent to... So here you are, a beautiful kind of pixel artwork on Twitter. And here's Cap'n with a work, just another stunning work using that old software that Cap'n was telling us about. We're just playing with different brushes and making these beautiful abstracts. And here's another one by Cap'n with what looks like a new series, Layer 01, input, output, a bit more high definition here. And we see almost that other part that was posted on Twitter here. Very, very interesting. Almost looking like it's remixing other works by Cap'n. And of course, Coda Nakazono, super interesting piece here. Animated abstract. And we're going to have to keep going here. Flames by Klaus. And let me just see if we can get this going. So a cool analog video glitch work by Klaus. And 0 of 21. So I'm not sure if that's on Zero Art. Mo P. Wellington with a stunner over here. Beautiful AI artwork, The Rediscovery of Slowness, A Tale of Pursuit, a 1 of 1 here. You probably know who this is, Mikey de la Creme. And of course I follow Mikey. And beautiful painting here. Beautiful digital painting. And Zoom with another work here, Post Rooms number 11. That is for Tezos. And we're doing okay here. We're going to run through the rest of this. For Tezos, edition of 10. Little Cakes with an awesome AI artwork here. Cool kind of, what does it say? AI plus drawing using Santiago's drawing machine. Run through Stable Diffusion on MProps, Open Studio, and upscaled. So again, we're pushing frontiers over here. Sold for only 20 Tezos to Tempered. Very cool piece. Look at how stunning this is. Michael Pybus. And only 5,000 followers here. Really nice work here. This is a physical work that I saw on Instagram. Only 55 likes. I mean, really nice looking work here. This is Gora again. And this looks like physical work. I'm not positive. It could be Procreate, but it looks pretty physical to me. I'm pretty sure Gora uses physical work. Just nice sketches there. Tezos, Sinking City, high-res scan painting. Mixed media here. So interesting kind of NFTization of a physical painting here. Nice painting. Sinking City. Here's David Hales again, Taxi. So beautiful color decisions being made here. Watercolor and ink. Very precious looking artwork in this great Taxi coming over. Beautiful details. Great artist. Abel Berger, Are You Awake? New discovery here on Instagram. And here are some details here. This looks like colored pencils maybe. And some graphite. So mixed media here. Beautiful work here. And look at the text. Just awesome. And even these ghosts here. Beautiful work. And we've seen Donnie O'Donnell before. So it looks like a field. Brilliant composition here. The cloud, the sun with this interesting, and then a cow at the bottom right. Brilliant. I mean, this is so original. Farmed out. So it's in a book. And that, my friends, is your show. Thank you for joining me. I will post a Twitter space. We're going to have Art de Mort later today. Until next time, take care.